Want to add some serious drama and excitement to your bass lines? You can still do this without an expression pedal or a tremolo bar. I'm going to show you how to set up your Helix HX Stomp or LT to be able to use a switch instead of an expression pedal to get those dive bomb effects. Stick around to the end and I'll show you another effect that can also be used in a similar way. Let's have a look. The dive bomb effect is popular and used by many guitarists and bassists to create a unique and dynamic sound. It's a technique where you rapidly lower the pitch of your instrument, mimicking the sound of a bomb dropping. Often guitarists use a tremolo bar, Floyd Rose or others, to drop or dive an octave. The result is a sound that can be dramatic and powerful, and is often used in heavy metal and rock music, but it can also be used in other genres to add a touch of creativity and excitement to the playing. What about bass players? Billy Sheehan, Stu Hamm, Victor Wooten and others have all dabbled in the use of a tremolo bar, but it hasn't really taken off in the same way that it did for guitar. I've heard Billy Sheehan state in an interview that the tuning was a bit unstable and the sonic register in the bass didn't really work well. So if you think about those harmonic pitched dive bombs a la Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, etc., you're not going to get that from the deep register of the bass, but you'll get an effect similar, just not as effective. Having said that, Charles Berthoud has a great clip of him using the tremolo on a bass. Check this out. I think it's up here. Awesome player, awesome tone, awesome sound, great outcome. So what's the alternative to the whammy bar? Well, that would be pitch shifting. So apart from enabling a pitch to change, like I did in my previous video, again up here somewhere, which can be controlled by an expression pedal, one of the settings that's great for guitarists with fixed bridge guitars like the Les Paul and us bass players with fixed bridges is the ability to rapidly drop an octave with that pitch whammy effect, simulating the use of whammy bar for dive bombs. But what if you don't have, like I don't, and most of you probably don't have, the tremolo bar? The poly pitch can be set up to do this with an expression pedal, but what if you don't have an expression pedal? So you've got a HX Stomp, or you've got the expression pedal on your LT or floor already being used for volume or another effect. Well, we can simulate the effect using a momentary switch. So the switches on our Stomp, LT, floor, etc. can be set to momentary, on off, or latching, which means press it on and it holds the effect until you press it off again. So the equipment we're going to need is effectively the switch on your floorboard. Now, because I'm videoing, I normally use the Pedalnetics switch 4 and 5, which is on there, but because I'm trying to do this on video and I needed a longer cable, I'm using this 2-switch loopy pedal. So I'm only using switch 4, switch 5 is disengaged, but this is replicating what I would have on my Stomp. On your LT or your floor, you don't need an external. In fact, they won't take the external, so any other switch on your floorboard will be fine. What else are we going to need? Well, let's have a look at HX Edit. It's easier for me to show you on the screen there, but you can do all this from the unit. So you'll see here I've set up one of my standard SPT Pro bass settings, which is what I use for my Yamaha BB. The BB is set in active mode, but it's pretty well flat. I've just bumped the mids a little bit and the highs a little bit. I'm using Damasio Relentless pickups, but I'm only using the P pickup. So this is effectively set up as a P bass with a bit of active on it. I've bumped a little bit because I can get some of those pinch harmonic type things for the dive bomb demo. Otherwise it would be fairly well flat for my normal playing. So you can see that what I've also done, I'm running a 4x10 cab, and I've used a 57 dynamic because that'll give it again a bit more brighter tone so that I can pop as much highs out as I can when I'm trying to do harmonics. for this exercise. It's on the cap edge, and I've got a low cut at about 40 hertz, which is what I normally do to keep away from the drummer, and it's just habit. So that's the amp. So let's look at the pitch. So you can't do this with a pitch whammy. If you've got an expression pedal, you can do that with the pitch whammy. But because I don't have an expression pedal, I have no way of being able to control the delay or the drop of the octave. So I need the pitch whammy, I need the poly pitch to be able to do that, because it has this note sync or this time-based component. So the interval I've set to drop -12. So I'm dropping 1 octave. So 1 octave from here down to the bottom end of the strings. And then I am setting the time. Now you can set the time by milliseconds, but what I'm finding is that by setting it to a half note, then that sets the time for this. So a half note would be 1 and 2. So that's how long it's going to take to go from the standard pitch to the octave. Now, of course, you can adjust that. Another good one is quarter inch, but is quarter notes, but that will make it go faster. And then 1 whole note makes it really drag out. So if I just try this on a half note, so that's taking a half note to get down. If I try that on quarter note, you'll see it goes a lot faster. But if I try it on a whole note, it's like ages. So I find you don't get the same effect with the whole note. Switching between the half note or the quarter note will depend on how dramatic you want to make the drop, but that's enough for you to play with. Again, you can play with the intervals. This is dropping an octave. If you go to -24, that will drop it 2 octaves. It'll actually take a half note to go all the way down 2 octaves. That's a bit interesting. So play around with that. I'm putting a compressor on here. Again, this is mainly because I've got it fairly aggressive, 6 to 1. I want to drive, because I want to get these harmonics happening, I want to drive into the effects and the amp to try and get that tight harmonic happening. Normally I wouldn't have it as aggressively. I'm also including a distortion pedal. So I've got the Obsidian 7000 in front. Again, this is to give that bit of bite, especially when I'm doing the harmonics, to get that higher register, to make that dive bomb sound a little bit way cooler. And then I'm adding a little bit of delay. I've got it set at 20% in the mix. It's feedback of 35. I've matched the note sync half a note time frame under what I'm playing. So the pitch is going down a half, and this is doing a delay of a quarter. Again, play around with this and get the sound that you want, but this seems to be working all right for me at the moment. So this is the delay. Now, what I've done, if I go back to my poly shift pitch thingy, I've got it set and configured to foot switch 4, and you'll see I've got it set as momentary. So momentary and latching, remember, momentary means it's on while I've got the foot on. And latching means it will stay on. And that effect will only happen after I've turned it off. So we want to keep this momentary so we can use it a bit like that expression pedal. Not the same, but similar. So let's have a look at what that sounds like if I play through. See how we go on the bottom end. Now, you'll notice it hangs at the end because I'm holding the effect on. So again, when you're playing, what you want to try and do is try and time it so that it doesn't completely stay on. Again, playing around with that, up to you. But that's what you want to try and do. Don't hold it all the way. You want to use it as a stomp, and as you get to the level of the effect that you want to turn it off. So you'll notice that I've also assigned the distortion and the delay also to the same foot switch. They're turned off to start with, and that way when I engage the pitch, I'm also engaging the distortion and the delay. So they come on as one effect to give me that thing that I'm looking for. If I try without these and bring them in one at a time, you'll see the differences. So I've got the delay and the distortion turned off and not connected to the switch. So if I'm playing, that's just the native with the pitch. So that's just without that. But as I add the distortion in, get a bit more of that divey sort of thing. Again, it's not going to be the same as guitar. It's an effect, but you're not going to get the same pitch. Now, if I add as I add the delay in, that gives me a bit more space as it's going through. Now you can set this to not just dive bomb down, but you can also go upwards. So if I change to my other snapshot, what I've done now is I've basically gone up an octave. So again, play around with the effects you want. You can change any interval. You can make it go up a fifth, you can go up a third, you can go up the octave, you can go down the octave. This pedal allows you to do pretty well everything you want to do from that type of effect perspective. It's cool. Now, what's the limitations with the HX Stomp? If you watched my previous video on using the pitch to change the tuning of your bass, I mentioned that the poly pitch or the poly effects take a lot of DSP processing. So you'll see this is pretty well, I could probably fit another couple of things in, maybe an EQ, but I'm pretty well limited on the HX to the pitch is taking up most of the DSP. So it's a very simple patch. So if you're trying to run a very complex multi-path patch, you won't be able to use the poly tune. So again, with the HX Stomp, you're going to have to adjust for, if you want to use this effect, you're going to have to change the tone you're using for this. I only use it for a specific effect for a specific song or some solo activities, so it doesn't matter to me. If you're using a floor or an LT, you've got a lot more DSP, or you've got a whole other DSP. So in that case, you can effectively allocate an entire DSP line to the poly effect, and then the other one to whatever you're doing in your more complex stuff. So it gives you more flexibility, especially when you're playing live. But as you see, I'm using the Stomp and it's working perfectly well for me. So what if we try the same type of effects? We're going to use the same latching approach. We're going to use the same momentary switch type function, but this time I'm going to use an Octaver. So I've now swapped the pitch out for the Octaver. I've lowered the second octave to 0 and I've put the first octave to 10. This apparently is the best way to use this particular pedal. If you're used to using the real Boss pedal, then this is apparently the way they said it. Sounds cool to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same setup that we had before, distortion and delay, but now I've got the Octaver instead of the pitch. I actually quite like that cutting it out. It's like the, I don't know if you've ever seen Eddie Van Halen doing the cut-off switch, or Ace Frehley doing a solo where he rolls back on the pickups and turns them in and out. Gives that type of effect where I'm cutting in and out. Quite cool, man. Hopefully this trick will help you get your Doug Wimbish on and your bass bombing, or make up a different way of doing it with some of the other effects. Let me know in the comments below with your favorite way to use these effects, or if you've picked a different thing instead of the pitch or the Octaver. Let me know how you went and what your settings are. Check out the video description for additional resources and a list of the bass gear I use. Don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you get a copy of my book, Ditch the Amps, Dig in the Helix. It'll give you some instructions on how to set this up and some other key cool things. And also check out the link below to the website and the merch store. Keep playing and we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.